All right, let's jump into this deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. Now, you shared this book, so I'm guessing you've got at least some familiarity with the ideas here.
For sure. I think it's a book that everyone should read at least once.
Yeah, I agree. And even if you've read it, we're going to go deep and hopefully uncover some new insights. You know, those little nuggets that maybe you missed the first time
Oh,
around.
absolutely. There's always something new to discover.
Right. It's kind of like a secret decoder ring for figuring out why some things just explode in popularity while others fade away.
Exactly. It's about understanding how those trends catch fire.
Right. Like you think about Hush Puppies, those shoes.
Yeah.
I mean, they were around forever. Then suddenly, bam, they're everywhere. It's crazy.
2 million pairs sold in a single year. Mind-boggling.
That's wild. Or even something like Sesame Street. Its impact goes way beyond just being a kid's show, right?
It's had a profound impact on education, early childhood development, even literacy rates. I mean,
Yep. Exactly. It really makes you think about the power of ideas and how they spread. And even how New York City tackled its crime problem in the 90s.
yeah, that's a great example.
Gladwell shows how they focused on seemingly small things like graffiti and fare
The
evasion.
broken windows theory. Right. The idea that visible signs of disorder can actually encourage more serious crime.
Exactly. And by addressing those small things, they shifted the whole context and crime rates plummeted. It's fascinating stuff.
It really is, and that's the heart of the tipping point. It's not about gradual change, it's about these sudden explosions of popularity.
It's like a virus, right?
Yeah, Gladwell uses that analogy a lot. It simmers beneath the surface, and bam, it hits a critical mass and takes off.
Like that sudden jump on a graph.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you wonder what makes some things tip while others just fizzle out.
That's the million-dollar question, right? And that's where those key players come in.
Okay, so let's talk about those key players.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the connectors, the people who seem to know everyone.
Right, but it's not just about having a ton of friends.
It's more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about having those weak ties, those connections to people from all sorts of different walks of life. You know,
Well, think about it. Your close friends probably have similar interests, right? You all run in the same circles.
exactly. It's those weak ties, those acquaintances from different worlds that can really spread an idea further.
Like they're these super spreaders of information, taking the spark from one group to another.
They are, and they often do it without even realizing it. They're just naturally curious and love connecting with people.
Right. It's like they're these social butterflies flitting around and cross-pollinating ideas.
I like that analogy. But even with connectors spreading the word, you need someone to actually convince people to buy into the idea.
That's where the salesmen come in, right?
Exactly. And what's fascinating is Gladwell suggests it's often less about what they say and more about how they say it. It's about those nonverbal cues.
So it's more about their energy and how they connect with people?
Exactly. Think about the most persuasive people you know. It's often not about their arguments, it's about their passion. Their enthusiasm is infectious.
So they kind of infect you with their excitement.
Precisely. It's about creating that sense of trust and rapport.
Like they're getting you on their wavelength.
Yeah. It's fascinating how much of communication is actually nonverbal.
It really is.
Yeah.
But even with connectors spreading the word and salesmen getting people excited, there's still another crucial player, the Mavens.
Ah, yes. The Mavens, the information gurus.
They're the ones who know everything about a specific topic.
Exactly. And they love sharing that knowledge. Think about it. We all know someone like this, right?
It's like that friend who's obsessed with craft beer. You wouldn't buy a new IPA without their recommendation.
Exactly. And their passion is contagious because they genuinely love what they're talking about. Their recommendations carry a lot of weight.
They're not trying to sell you something. They're just sharing their expertise.
That's a key difference, and it's what makes them so influential.
People can sense that authenticity, and it makes all the difference. But even with the right people involved, an idea won't tip unless it has a certain stickiness.
Right. It can't just be good. It has to be memorable. It needs that special something that captures attention and makes it stick.
Gladwell uses a really interesting example to illustrate this. He talks about Winston cigarettes.
Oh, yeah. Their slogan, Winston tastes good like a cigarette should.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
It's super catchy. But did you notice the grammatical error? They used like instead of as.
Wait, really? They did that on purpose?
It seemed crazy, right? But it worked brilliantly.
I guess it made them stand out from the crowd.
Exactly. It created a moment of disfluency, something that made people pause and pay attention.
Our brains are wired to notice things that are a little bit off, right?
Exactly. And that made the message more memorable.
So by breaking the rules, they actually made their slogan stickier.
It's counterintuitive, but it's true. Sometimes it's those unexpected elements that make an idea catch fire.
That's fascinating. It makes you think about how you can make your own ideas more memorable, to add that little something that makes them stand out. But Gladwell also talks about how an idea's success isn't just about the people involved or the message itself. He emphasizes the power of context.
Oh, yeah. Context is crucial.
Like he talks about that study where seminary students were less likely to help someone in need if they were in a hurry.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Just being pressed for time changed their behavior.
It did. Even though they were all studying to be religious leaders, the simple act of being in a rush made them less likely to stop and help.
It's a powerful reminder that our actions aren't always dictated by our character. Our environment plays a huge role.
It really does. And Gladwell takes us even further with the Stanford prison experiment.
Oh, right. The one where students were assigned roles as prisoners and guards.
Hmm.
And things got out of hand pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's a disturbing example,
Mm.
but it shows how context can completely transform our behavior.
It makes you wonder how much our environment shapes us without us even realizing it.
And that leads us to one of Gladwell's most compelling arguments: how even small changes in context can tip the scales. He uses the example of the crime wave in New York City in the 1990s.
That's a great example. At the time, crime rates were through the roof, right?
Yeah, it was a really tough time for the city. But instead of focusing on major crimes, they decided to crack down on the smaller stuff, like graffiti and fare evasion.
The broken windows theory again.
Exactly. The idea was that those visible signs of disorder were creating an environment where more serious crime could flourish.
By cleaning up the streets and enforcing those smaller rules, they were sending a message that order mattered.
Right. And it worked. Crime rates plummeted in the years that followed.
It's amazing what a difference those small changes can make.
It really is. It underscores the power of context and how even seemingly insignificant details can have a massive impact.
It's like he pulls from all these different fields, you know?
Yeah, like sociology, psychology, marketing. It's what makes his work so engaging.
For sure. It's that interdisciplinary approach that makes you see things in a new light.
Totally. And he doesn't shy away from challenging conventional wisdom, like the idea that mass media is the most effective way to spread an idea.
Right. You'd think that, but Gladwell argues that word of mouth is even more powerful, especially when it involves those key players.
I mean, think about it. We're bombarded with ads and messages constantly, but the things that really stick with us are the recommendations from people we trust.
Exactly. It's those personal connections, those trusted voices that really influence our decisions.
Like, would you rather buy a product based on a flashy ad? Or would you rather hear about it from a friend who knows your tastes?
No brainer.
Totally. It's about that authentic connection.
It's like that saying, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And those key players can really convey that why.
Yeah, they make it personal.
Yeah.
They make it real. So understanding these principles, it's not about manipulation or anything like that.
Right. It's not about tricks.
It's about understanding human behavior and using that knowledge ethically and effectively.
Absolutely. It's about harnessing the power of connection and persuasion to create positive change.
To make the world a more, interesting and engaging place.
I like that. And I think that's a key takeaway from the tipping point. It's not just about the message itself.
It's also about the messenger, right?
Exactly. And the context in which that message is delivered, all of these things play a role.
And that's why it's still so relevant today, even though it was published years ago. The principles Gladwell outlines are timeless.
They really are. You can apply them to so many different things.
To marketing campaigns, social movements, even just everyday conversations. It's about understanding how people interact and how ideas spread.
It's a book that makes you think differently about the world around you, to see those patterns and connections that we might otherwise miss.
And it empowers you to understand how to leverage those patterns, whether you're launching a product, promoting an idea, or just trying to connect with people on a deeper level.
It's a toolbox for making things happen.
Gladwell's book is full of fascinating examples. But the real magic happens when you start applying these concepts to your own life.
Yeah. Absolutely. Start looking for those tipping points in your own world. Pay attention to the connectors, the mavens, and the salesmen in your life.
Think about the stickiness of your own ideas, how you can make them more memorable and impactful.
It's a journey of discovery that can lead to some really amazing insights.
And remember, it's not about manipulating people.
Right. It's about using this knowledge for good.
It's about making the world a better place.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's kind of like he gives you X-ray vision. You can see beneath the surface of things.
I like that. And it makes you realize that we can all be those key players too.
Right, like you don't have to have some fancy title or anything.
It's about recognizing those opportunities to make a difference, you know?
Absolutely. You might be a connector without even knowing it, just by bringing people together from different parts of your life.
Or maybe you're passionate about something
Yeah.
and you start sharing that knowledge with others. Boom, you're a maven.
And you never know, you might even discover you've got that salesman's touch.
Right, that ability to inspire and persuade and get people excited.
The point is we're all part of this big web of connections and influences.
We all have the power to make things happen.
And that's what makes the tipping point so empowering. It's not just about understanding why things become popular.
It's about understanding how we can shape the world.
Exactly. We're not just passive observers. We can be active participants.
It's inspiring, right?
Definitely. It makes you want to go out and make a difference.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this amazing book, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay, go for it.
Gladwell's book is full of fascinating examples. But the real magic happens when you start applying these ideas to your own life.
Couldn't agree more. Start looking for those tipping points in your own world. Think about how you can be a connector, a maven, a salesman.
Think about the stickiness of your own ideas and how you can make them more impactful and maybe even world-changing.
It's a journey of discovery that can lead to some incredible places.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, keep those minds open to the possibilities.
It's been a pleasure diving into the tipping point with you today.
Likewise, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into one of the most fascinating books out there.
Until next time, keep those minds curious and stay tuned for more deep dives into the ideas that shape our world.
See you next time.